Imagine you are Emily. You literally just touched down in Seattle for this epic summer trip. You pull out your phone, check your banking app, and the numbers staring back at you, that is the absolute limit of your summer freedom.
You've got exactly $3,500 saved up. That's it. That one number has to cover your rent, your food, those concert tickets, the whole shebang.
So you run the numbers and realize, okay, I'm going to be spending about $400 a week, which brings us to a very urgent real-world problem. How long until you go completely broke? Well, by the end of this lecture, you'll understand the core concept of linear models, the formula behind them, and exactly how to apply this math to make smart, real-life decisions. Think of this not as doing math, but actually learning a new language to predict your own future. Section 1. The math of real life, translating to equations. All right, let's dive right in and translate our everyday English into the language of mathematics. We are going to build what's called a linear model. Now, what's really cool is how simple this translation actually is. Every linear model requires just two key pieces of information. First up, the initial value. In Emily's case, how much money is she starting with? Right, $3,500. In algebra, we call this starting amount our b value, or the y-intercept. Second, we need the rate of change. Basically, how fast is her situation changing? Well, she's spending $400 each week. And because that money is actively leaving her account, this is a negative rate of change. We call this our m value, or the slope. So m equals negative 400.
And this brilliantly sets up the classic formula you've probably seen 100 times before, y equals mx plus b. If we just plug our translated numbers right into this formula, suddenly it makes perfect, real-world sense. The amount of money Emily has left, that's our y, is equal to negative 400 times the number of weeks, that's x, plus her starting amount of $3,500. So let's figure this out. If we set y to 0, meaning she has absolutely $0 left, we can just solve for x. 0 equals negative 400x plus 3,500. Move the 400x over, divide 3,500 by 400, and boom, we get 8.75. Emily has exactly 8.75 weeks before the money totally runs dry.
But wait, this is absolutely crucial. Before we go any further, I want to highlight a massive trap that catches students all the time. Always check your signs. When a problem says someone is spending, or something is dropping or decreasing, your rate of change, your slope, must be negative. If you accidentally make that 400 positive, your model is going to predict Emily is magically getting richer every single week she spends money. And hey, as much as we would absolutely love that to be true, it is terrible math.
Section 2. Working with 2 points, finding the slope. So, now that we understand the basic idea, what happens when the real world doesn't just hand us the rate of change on a silver platter? Let's look at a town's population. In 2004, the town had 6,200 people. Fast forward to 2009, it had grown to 8,100. We're assuming it's growing at a constant linear rate, but we aren't actually told what that rate is. Notice a really clever trick we're doing here, though. We didn't use the actual year 2004 as our starting input. Instead, we defined 2004 as year 0, or t equals 0. That automatically makes 2009 year 5. Okay, so how do we find the rate of change, the slope, when we just have these two snapshots in time? Well, we just follow 3 simple steps. Step 1, identify your coordinates. Our first point is 0, 6,200. Our second point is 5, 8,100. Step 2, find the change in output. We take the final population of 8,100 and subtract the initial 6,200. That gives us 1,900, meaning the town grew by 1,900 people. Step 3, divide by the change in input. We just divide that 1,900 by the 5 years it actually took for that growth to happen. And the result? 380. The crucial takeaway here is that this number represents 380 new people moving to the town every single year. That's our slope, our m. And because we cleverly set 2004 as year 0 earlier, we actually already have our starting value, our b, which is 6,200. Put it together, and the full equation is simply y equals 380x plus 6,200.
Now at this point, you might be asking a very common question. Why do we even bother setting the starting year's input to 0? Why not just use 2004 as the x value?
Well, the reason is entirely about making your life easier. By definition, the y-intercept is the value of the function when the input is exactly 0. If you use the actual year 2004 as your input, your y-intercept would represent the town's population in the actual literal year 0, like more than 2 millennia ago. The math would be incredibly messy and honestly, just cumbersome. By setting your first measured data point as year 0, you are literally handing yourself the y-intercept for free. It's a real game changer.
Section 3, Making Choices with Math. Systems of Equations. All right, let's connect all of this to real-life decision-making. And, maybe save some actual money. Meet Jamal. He's moving across town, needs to rent a truck, and he's looking at two options. Option 1 is a company called Keep On Trucking, Inc. They charge an upfront fee of $20 plus 59 cents per mile. Option 2 is Move It Your Way. Now, they charge a lower upfront fee of $16, but a slightly higher rate of 63 cents per mile. So take a second and ask yourself, which company is actually the better deal here? Is it the one with the cheaper upfront fee or the one with the cheaper per mile rate? Well, the truth is, it entirely depends on how far Jamal is driving. To figure it out, we build two separate linear models. For Keep On Trucking, the cost K based on distance D is K of D equals 0.59 times the distance plus that $20 starting fee. For Move It Your Way, the cost M based on distance D is M of D equals 0.63 times the distance plus the $16 starting fee. Notice how the company with the higher starting fee actually has a lower rate of change. To find the absolute best deal, we need to find the exact tipping point where both companies cost the exact same amount. Step 1, we set our two equations equal to each other. So 0.59D plus 20 equals 0.63D plus 16. Step 2, we solve for D. If we subtract 16 from both sides and then subtract 0.59D from both sides, we get 4 equals 0.04D. Now just divide 4 by 0.04, and we get exactly 100 miles. This right here is the point of intersection. At exactly 100 miles, it literally does not matter which truck Jamal rents. Both of them are going to cost exactly the same amount of money. So let's interpret this math back into a real-world decision rule. Because Keep On Trucking has a slower rate of change, meaning it grows less expensive per mile, it becomes the cheaper option the further you drive. So if Jamal is driving more than 100 miles, he should absolutely choose Keep On Trucking. But if he's driving less than 100 miles, that lower upfront fee from Move It Your Way makes it the cheaper choice. Look at that. Math just saved Jamal actual money.
Section 4, Summary and Final Thoughts.
All right, let's wrap this up and summarize the key concepts you can take away from this explainer today. You've just added 3 highly practical, extremely powerful tools to your mathematical toolbox. First, whenever you encounter a real-world problem, look for the starting amount, that's your B, and the constant rate at which it changes, your M. Second, when dealing with time, always set your starting year or day to 0 to make finding that y-intercept an absolute breeze. And third, when you're comparing two choices, set their models equal to each other to find the intersection point. That intersection, that is your decision-making boundary. So I'm going to leave you with this question. How will you use y equals mx plus b to make a better choice today? Whether it's tracking your monthly budget, figuring out a new cell phone plan, or choosing a rental car, you now have the literal tools to model your own future. Keep practicing these linear models because next time we're going to look at what happens when growth isn't just a straight line, but an absolute explosion. That's coming up in our next explainer on exponential growth. Keep calculating, and I'll